Hi everyone, my name is Yiqi and I'm a PGY5 psychiatry resident at the University of Ottawa. Today I will be presenting our scoping review on migration and psychosis in a Canadian context. There is a growing body of international literature examining the relationship between migration and schizophrenia. Meta-analysis and reviews report first and second generation migrants having a 2 to 3-fold increase in risk of developing psychosis compared with native inhabitants. Partial explanations for this increased risk include selective migration, minority status, social adversity, genetic predisposition, perinatal complications, and substance use. Studies investigating this increased risk of psychosis in migrants and its underlying explanations has concentrated on European data, and the extent of evidence on immigration and psychosis in Canada remains uncharacterized. The purpose of this scoping review is to determine the extent and type of evidence in relation to immigration and psychosis in Canada. Results may help researchers and clinicians direct attention to immigration status as a risk factor for schizophrenia and improve mental health surveillance and develop effective prevention and treatment measures. A peer-reviewed search strategy was conducted in February in the listed databases. No limits to language or publication date were applied. The main search concepts comprised of terms related to immigrants, psychosis, and Canada. Inclusion criteria included articles examining immigrants or refugees to Canada using standardized clinical diagnostic criteria for non-affective psychotic disorders. Exclusion criteria included those that only used non-Canadian data, examined affective psychotic disorders, or were negligible sources of evidence, such as newspaper articles, non-government websites, and YouTube videos. Search results were exported to Covidence, and duplicates were eliminated using the platform's duplicate identification feature. A gray literature search is ongoing and includes Canadian government publications, conference proceedings, thesis, and clinical practice guidelines. 2 reviewers independently reviewed abstracts, selected full texts, and performed data extraction. Disagreements between the 2 reviewers are being resolved independently by a 3rd reviewer. Searches revealed over 3,000 studies and 1,400 duplicates were removed. Of the remaining 1,900 or so studies, 156 full texts were assessed for eligibility, and 76 studies were then eligible for data extraction. The extent of evidence on migration and psychosis in Canada remains uncharacterized as data extraction is still ongoing. To date, a retrospective study found that first-generation European immigrants to Canada at the start of the 20th century had higher risks of schizophrenia. Recent research, however, based in Ontario and British Columbia, examining psychosis and immigration, has reported both increased and decreased risks of developing a psychotic disorder. Several hypotheses have been proposed to explain the contrast between Canadian and European data. First, Canada has a different immigration system, favoring higher education, work experience, and language skills, which may have a protective effect on the risk of developing psychotic disorders. Second, most major Canadian cities have a large population of ethnic minorities, and higher ethnic density has also been associated with a reduced risk of schizophrenia in migrants. In conclusion, variable impacts of immigrant status on psychosis, Rising numbers of Canadian immigrants and limited Canada-wide data examining psychosis and immigration underscore a need to characterize the extent and type of evidence examining the relationship between immigration and psychosis in Canada. Improved understanding of this association may then help us improve mental health surveillance and develop effective prevention and treatment measures. Here are my references, and thank you very much for your attention.